Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 80th annual membership meeting of the Pan-American Association of Philadelphia. 80 years ago, the United States was being drawn into a European war between the Western democracies and evil totalitarian regimes. France had fallen, and people in government and civil society realized that sooner or later, the United States would enter the war. Also, people knew that at that time, it would be crucial to have the support of the other countries south of our border. And so it was that out of this consensus, a handful of academics, businessmen, and government officials got together here in Philadelphia in October 1940 and founded an association dedicated to promoting better understanding among the peoples and the countries of the Western Hemisphere. One of those founders was Professor Arthur Whitaker of the University of Pennsylvania, who would go on to write a seminal book called The Western Hemisphere Idea. It delved into the unique aspect of the ties between the countries of the Americas. That is our heritage. Today, the United States is facing another serious strategic challenge, this time from an ascendant totalitarian regime in Asia. In Latin America, trade, populism, collapsing governments, migration patterns, and now COVID-19 are creating dismal situations. These are very difficult times for Latin America. And, make no mistake, the United States will be affected by them. We at the Pan-American Association believe that the need for cooperation, for dialogue among all the countries of the Americas has never been greater. And to that goal, we are thoroughly committed. My name is Abelardo Lecter. I am the chairman of the board of the association, and I invite you to join us. Please help us promote the spirit of Pan-Americanism in the Western Hemisphere. De nuevo, bienvenidos a la 80ª reunión de la membresía de la Asociación Panamericana de Filadelfia. Welcome.
Thank you, Ab. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today as presenting sponsor for the Pan-American Association's 80th annual meeting. I'm honored to be here as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month and the generations of Hispanic Americans who have positively influenced our community. It's also an exciting milestone for the organization, marking 80 years of addressing crucial issues of diversity and equity for the Latino community, as well as important issues affecting the Americas. These pressing issues demand our attention now more than ever. In a time of great divide, the need for greater cultural understanding is vital to the progression of our country, which is one of the many reasons why PICO is such a proud sponsor of the Pan-American Association. Similar to the core of the association's mission, we at PICO believe firmly in the importance of relationships and understanding across cultures. Today, we honor the recipient of the William J. Clothier Award, Reverend Bonnie Camarda, Director of Partnerships for the Salvation Army in Eastern Pennsylvania and Delaware. Named after the founder of the Pan-American Association, this award is presented to an individual who best exemplifies dedication to public service and commitment to the ideals of Pan-Americanism. In her long-standing role at the Salvation Army, Reverend Bonnie has been commended for her ability to develop impactful relationships and fruitful partnerships with men and women, the elderly and children across socioeconomic and cultural lines. Most recently, Reverend Bonnie was celebrated for her outstanding work in Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria. PICO joined the Salvation Army in that response, helping to restore power to those in need. We continue to partner with the Salvation Army in an ongoing response to needs resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic in the Philadelphia community. We are proud to serve alongside you, Reverend Bonnie. You are an incredible representation of the Pan-American Association's mission. Now, I'd like to introduce my dear friend and former colleague, Romy Diaz, who previously served as the Vice President and General Counsel of PICO. We miss Romy greatly, but we are proud of the contributions he continues to make in the Hispanic community in Philadelphia, particularly in his role as President and CEO of the Board of Directors for the Pan-American Association. Please join me in welcoming Romy Diaz.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Pan-American Association's 80th Annual Meeting and Clothier Memorial Award presentation. I am Romy Diaz, President and CEO. Since its founding in 1940, the association has been dedicated to promoting cultural, educational, and economic activities that increase understanding and cooperation among the peoples of the Americas. We are proud of our growing Hispanic population and their contributions to the well-being of the Delaware Valley. And we continue to support the development of Latino talent by awarding college scholarships each spring. So despite the COVID-19 pandemic, we were delighted last May to present $5,000 scholarships to Iviana Colon Grieder of Temple, Angela Reyes Cervantes of Swarthmore, and Jenny Berrios of Ursinus, as well as awards to 7 graduating seniors demonstrating excellence in Latin American studies. Congratulations to you all. Our scholarship awards could not have been done without the continued support of our longtime sponsors, PICO and Exelon Corporation, Blank Rome LLP, and Comcast, among others. But I would be remiss if I didn't say a special thanks to our presenting sponsor, PICO and Exelon, and to PICO CEO Mike Innocenzo for making today's event possible. Thank you all. And we know that today's success reflects the importance of our 2 special guests. So I'd like to begin by introducing our keynote speaker, Ambassador Thomas A. Shannon, Jr. Over the years, the Pan-American Association has been honored to welcome many distinguished speakers, and today is no exception. Ambassador Shannon spent nearly 35 years in the United States Foreign Service, serving 6 U.S. presidents and 11 secretaries of state before joining Arnold and Porter in 2018, where he plays a leadership role in the firm's global law and public policy practice. Ambassador Shannon held numerous senior leadership positions at the U.S. State Department and at missions in Brazil, Guatemala, South Africa, and Venezuela, as well as the Organization of American States, before his appointment in 2016 by President Obama as Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, the 3rd highest ranking position at the U.S. State Department. In that role, Ambassador Shannon also managed the State Department during the presidential transition, led bilateral and strategic stability talks with the Russian Federation, and worked with our allies to oversee Iranian compliance with the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, among other things. Prior to his role as Undersecretary of State, he was counselor at the State Department, United States Ambassador to Brazil, Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs, and Special Assistant to the President at the National Security Council. During his career as a Foreign Service officer, he rose to the rank of Career Ambassador and was the highest-ranking member of our professional diplomatic corps. Ambassador Shannon is a member of Phi Beta Kappa and received his BA from the College of William and Mary with high honors. He earned a Master of Philosophy in Politics and a Doctor of Philosophy in Politics from Oxford University. Ambassador Shannon has been honored by many institutions and governments, including receiving the Trainer Award for Excellence in the Conduct of Diplomacy from Georgetown University, the Presidential Distinguished Service Award, and diplomatic recognitions from Brazil, Chile, Colombia, and Spain. But we at the Pan-American Association of Philadelphia know him as a friend and recall his efforts to travel overnight from Brazil to make our luncheon a few years ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and personal privilege to introduce our 2020 keynote speaker and distinguished friend, Ambassador Thomas A. Shannon, Jr.
It is my pleasure and honor to speak to all of you today at the invitation of the Pan-American Association of Philadelphia. I have had the good luck of addressing the Pan-American Association before, when I was the United States Ambassador to Brazil, and I know well the extraordinary work of the association in promoting understanding, knowledge, and solidarity in the Americas, and among the diverse, vibrant, and intriguing societies and communities that make up our hemisphere. We live in difficult and challenging times. The impact of the COVID pandemic has been felt especially badly in our hemisphere. 6 of the top 10 countries in terms of COVID infections are within our hemisphere: the United States, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, Peru, and Colombia. The economic consequences of the pandemic have been devastating in the region, with most countries suffering declines in GDP of between 8 and 10%. The pandemic has laid bare the inequality and lack of access to public health services that still define many countries in the Americas, the United States included. But in these extraordinary times, it would be wrong to lose hope. It would be a mistake to lose hope or to despair for our future. On the contrary, I believe the countries of the Americas, separately and as a whole, have shown remarkable resilience and an ability to fashion an enduring response using the democratic institutions and open societies that characterize most of the countries of the Americas. Let me explain what I mean by taking a step backwards and talking briefly about the dramatic political and economic changes that have occurred in our hemisphere, and then explain what this means going forward and show why I believe the Americas will be in the forefront of global political change for the rest of the 21st century. You are all familiar with the extraordinary democratization of our hemisphere that occurred in the 20th century, in the 1980s and 90s. It was the product of internal dissent and heroic political action in the countries of Central and South America, and the far-sighted and able diplomacy of the United States. In short order, countries of the Americas transformed themselves from authoritarian to democratic governments, from closed to open economies, from economies based on import substitution models of development to economies based on regional integration and trade, from exclusive to inclusive societies, and from isolation to global engagement. In the process, the region built new mechanisms for political engagement and trade: the South American Common Market, the Andean Community, the Union of South American Republics, the Central American Integration System, the Caribbean Community, the Caribbean and Latin American Community, ALBA, the Arc of the Pacific Alliance, not to mention the free trade agreements negotiated by the United States regionally with Chile, Peru, Colombia, Panama, the Central American countries and the Dominican Republic, and of course, the North American Free Trade Agreement, now the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement. And this was matched in North America, not only with NAFTA, but also with the Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America and the North American Leaders Summit, bringing together for the first time the leaders of Mexico, the United States, and Canada. And of course, the Summit of the Americas and that old perennial, the Organization of American States, and the inter-American system that it defines and characterizes. In retrospect, what happened in the Americas was a remarkable accomplishment. We built a hemisphere defined by common political values, and democratic constitutional processes, defined by common economic understandings and a commitment to markets, trade, and regional integration. We addressed outstanding conflict in the region through the Colombia peace process and the Central American peace process. We ended the potential for conflict between Peru and Ecuador and helped foster the world's first successful nuclear non-proliferation regime when Brazil and Argentina agreed bilaterally to end their nuclear weapons programs. In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, that horrible day, we won broad hemispheric agreement to our larger counterterrorism agenda, revitalized our collective security agreements, and modernized the hemispheric security focus, incorporating non-traditional threats posed by non-state actors, and introduced economic and social factors into our regional security thinking. The United States also built new and innovative security assistance programs, such as the Merida Initiative with Mexico to address the threat of cartels and transnational criminals, the Central American Regional Security Initiative, and the development of greater political capability in our military commands, U.S. Northern Command and U.S. Southern Command. So think about this again. On the cusp of dramatic political change produced by 9/11 and U.S. involvement in Afghanistan and Iraq, and facing new and dangerous national security threats, we constructed a hemisphere, not by ourselves, but with our partners throughout the region, which was at peace, posed no immediate threat to the United States, broadly shared political values and a common framework of action, was tied together by trading agreements, and positioned in a globalized economy to take advantage of the region's energy self-sufficiency, the largest resources and reserves of fresh water and arable land in the world, the largest food-producing and exporting countries in the world, a free trade platform along our Pacific Rim, stretching from Canada to the tip of Chile, facing the world's largest markets in Asia, and a combined population less than that of China. And this impressive strategic accomplishment weathered a well-financed and well-thought-out reaction, led by Venezuela under Hugo Chavez and the remains of traditional leftist and radical political parties in South and Central America. That resistance has now largely exhausted itself and survives only in the ruins of Venezuela, Nicaragua, and in parts of Bolivia's high Andes. But the story does not end here. And this is where I get to the second part of what I wanted to say, what the future holds for the Americas and our hemisphere. Our hemisphere has now embarked on the next great phase of political, economic, and social development. It is attempting to use democratic institutions and constitutional processes and procedures, in other words, democratic government, to create democratic societies. Democracy, which was seen initially as giving peoples a voice in determining their national destiny, is now seen as being an essential part of giving peoples a voice in their individual destiny. In other words, ensuring that individuals have the resources and opportunities and security necessary to realize their full potential as human beings. This is a remarkable ambition with significant implications. First, it means that democracy is not a status quo political system. Instead, it is a system capable of profound social change, addressing problems of poverty, inequality, and social exclusion within a relatively peaceful and stable political environment. Second, it changes the nature of legitimacy. Legitimacy is linked not only to process, such as elections, it is also linked to outcomes. Increasingly, the value of democracy will be measured by the development it delivers and the open society it supports. All of this creates a huge opportunity for the United States. Building off what we have already accomplished, we can, with the right kind of engagement and investment and some imagination, build resilient, open societies and markets in the Americas with a tradition and practice of dialogue and engagement, and institutions to promote and channel common purpose and collaboration. Think about this. In our hemisphere, working with partners that we have been associated with through first the Pan-American Union, and then the Organization of American States and the Inter-American System, and the Summit of the Americas process, we can build a habit and a practice of cooperation and collaboration that creates in the Western Hemisphere a strategic reserve of peace and prosperity that will allow the United States to confront the significant political challenges that we face elsewhere in the world with the security that we will not be attacked in our own hemisphere or by our neighbors. Very few countries in the world and no great powers can claim this, only the United States. And we owe it to our partner nations, to those nations that live with us in this great hemisphere, to help do everything possible to preserve that strategic reserve and to ensure the peace and prosperity of our hemisphere. And this means staying engaged. This means working to further commerce and investment. It means to work to address the problems that countries in the region still face in fighting poverty, inequality, and social exclusion, in ensuring that democracy can deliver the goods, by making sure that multilateral development banks have the resources necessary to help the countries of the region address the problems presented by COVID and this pandemic, and then begin to build on the entrepreneurial skill of our hemisphere and its citizens to rebuild economies in ways that reflect the 21st century, that reflect the importance of environmental stewardship, and that can deliver the kinds of jobs and the sustainable development that is necessary in order for our democracies to be successful. If we do so, if we stay engaged, if we put our shoulder to the wheel, not only for ourselves, but for all of our neighbors and our partners, we will find ourselves in short order with enormous goodwill and cooperation, and a willingness to work with us even as the world faces very significant challenges driven by deep social, economic, and political change that has been taking place around us for the last several decades. Let me close by saying that the Pan-American Association, through the work it has done in promoting understanding, knowledge, and solidarity, has become a beacon of hope, not only in Philadelphia, but far beyond, in what the United States is capable of accomplishing when it puts its goodwill and its intelligence to work in building partnerships and alliances that are enduring, and ensuring that even as we work to enhance the relationships between governments, we understand that in democracies, governments are but the expression of each country's society, in other words, each country's peoples. And by building better understanding and communication and engagement between our societies and peoples, we ensure that our governments will have the political support necessary to build the kinds of alliances and partnerships that we will need today as we face COVID. And in so doing, show that democracy, as I noted, is not a status quo form of government. It is not a form of government that protects the privileged. It is a form of government that has built inside of it not just the evolutionary, but the revolutionary capability of fundamentally reshaping society, but doing it in a peaceful and determined way, one that is set by constitutional order and democratic process in institutions. As all of you engage in the rest of today's activities and listen to other speakers, I ask that you hold close to you, close to your hearts, the importance of solidarity and the importance of hope, and recognize that in the Americas, the United States and its partners and allies have an opportunity to build something in this century that will be remarked upon for many centuries to come. Thank you very much.
Since 2003, the Pan-American Association has paid tribute to the memory of an illustrious Philadelphian and one of our founders with the creation of the William J. Clothier II Memorial Award. The award is given each fall to an individual who best exemplifies Bill Clothier's dedication to public service and the ideals of Pan-Americanism. This year, the association is delighted to celebrate the many civic and public service accomplishments of the Reverend Bonnie Camarda of the Salvation Army. Reverend Bonnie, as she is widely known, serves as Director of Partnerships for the Salvation Army of Eastern Pennsylvania and Delaware since 1999. She has been described by the Salvation Army as being, quote, at the heart of its initiatives to form fruitful partnerships, unquote, with others. But those who know her would probably say that she is the heart of the Salvation Army's dedication to serving others through faith, good works, and partnerships. Many of us recall, for example, Reverend Bonnie's response to the devastation of Puerto Rico by Hurricane Maria in 2017, when she partnered with Philadelphia City Council member Maria Quiñones Sanchez and Unidos para Puerto Rico to arrange for the delivery of life-saving supplies and equipment to the island, and later accompanied Pennsylvania Governor Wolf to visit Puerto Rico to learn more about the long-term recovery of the island, which continues to this day. In recognition of her tireless efforts to assist in the recovery, in 2018, she was recognized by Philadelphia City Council as an honorary Puerto Rico Citizen of the Year. Reverend Bonnie received her Master of Divinity in 1983 from Rice University. She is a past president of the Hispanic College of Philadelphia and serves on a number of boards, including Nueva Esperanza, the Philadelphia Housing Authority, Philadelphia Leadership Foundation, the National Adoption Center, and Philadelphia Opportunities Industrialization Center, or OIC. But most of all, Reverend Bonnie is always present and ready to serve others, including those in the Latino community drawn to her engaging smile, charm, tenacity, humor, humility, and enormous heart. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our friend and the 2020 William J. Clothier II Memorial Award honoree, the Reverend Bonnie Camarda.
I would like to thank you for honoring me with the William J. Clothier II Memorial Award. Thank you, Romy and Abelardo, for choosing me for this award. It's a privilege for me to be able to receive this award tonight. Thank you so much to my husband, John, who for 35 years have been by my side serving the community. Thank you to the Salvation Army for allowing me to serve the least of this over my tenure here for 30 years. Thank you to all the past honorees who are amazing people. Thank you. And I do not want to stop thanking the Lord Jesus Christ, who has been part of my life, who has allowed me to serve the way I serve. Today, I would like you to join me and join the Salvation Army, who is honoring Romy Diaz with the other award. The other award is a special award that the Salvation Army gives once a year to a special individual. On November 17, Romy will receive the Others Award in celebration of hope. The event is a fundraising event to Philadelphia shelters. I don't know if you knew that we serve 146,000 people a night, 146,000 nights of shelters for those in need. During COVID, we served almost 3 million meals. Won't you join the Salvation Army and Romy to raise funds to provide change, hope, and restoration to individuals who are in need? Will you sponsor us at the launching to be able to provide housing? Will you think about being there for the least of this? Any fund that comes today, it will be matched up to $2,500. Please join us. Blessings and thank you for this award.
I hope you agree that this has been a memorable 80th anniversary event during an unbelievably challenging time. But as you heard from our keynote speaker, the association has long held a reputation not only for advancing knowledge, understanding, and engagement among the peoples of the Americas, but also for being, quote, a beacon of hope in Philadelphia and beyond, unquote, according to Ambassador Shannon. It is in that spirit and mindful of the important work that Reverend Bonnie and the Salvation Army have done and are doing to meet the enormous needs of our region during the COVID-19 pandemic, that the association is supporting that work with a $5,000 grant underwritten by our leadership. We hope that you will join us in supporting the work of the Salvation Army by going to our website, panamphilly.org, and making a donation in any amount. All donations that mention the Salvation Army will support their efforts to provide food and shelter for children and families impacted by the pandemic. So please be generous. And lastly, if I have learned anything over the past year, it is to be thankful for our many blessings. So with respect to our scholarship program, I want to give a shout out to our Education Committee co-chairs, Professor Ron Webb and Rafael Arismendi, and their committee for their able work in identifying and supporting the development of Latinx talent in our area colleges and universities. With respect to today's program, it simply wouldn't have happened without the association's Vice President, Ruben Reyes, who provided the expertise and driving force to produce a program equal to the association's mission and reputation. Thank you, Ruben. And in addition to the association's officers and board members, always willing to lend a helping hand, I have to give a special thanks to our chairman, Ab Lecter, who always gives me sage counsel and advice to ensure we stay focused on the long term. In closing, our all-volunteer organization depends on you, our members, attendees, and sponsors, to support and guide our efforts to provide the programming you have come to expect and appreciate. So until our scholarship luncheon next April, thank you for being with us today to share in the spirit of Pan-Americanism that allows all of us in this hemisphere to share in the privilege of being called Americans. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.